So hello and welcome back to the Riri Show. I am here with another great episode for you today. Please welcome the founder, head of product for the leading edge layer one network for the creator economy. Dakota, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me. Very excited to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. It's been a long time coming. I've been back and forth with AJ, and we've just been super excited to touch base. So here is our opportunity.
Excited. AJ's been he's great, like a phenomenal part of the team, and actually for a long time, because it's funny. He was really excited when he first heard back from you. So I know he's been working on it for a while. So I know he'll be really happy once this comes about. He's a big fan.
Oh, I love that. Well, we'll give him a little pre-clip before it comes out, maybe get everybody pumped up.
That'd be good.
So yes, it has been a long time coming. So thank you for sitting down with me. I'm excited to learn really more about what you're building because I'm fairly new to your project as well. So this is exciting for me. I always love that because it's a wealth of knowledge for me as well as the community. So can you start by telling us just a little bit about who you are and how you got into blockchain?
Yeah. So as you said, I'm Dakota Barnett, founder of Invarch'S. Who I am that's kind of a long story. I don't really know who I am half the time. Kind of like a nomad through life. Always wanted to help people, to empower people. I always wanted to do something significant. Why? I don't know. It's not really. I don't think it's an ego thing or like that. I just want to mean something. You know what I mean? Have a good purpose for all that. But previously, before I got into blockchain, I was actually like a huge politics junkie. Like I just in the same nature of how like now I really live and breathe Web3 and blockchain and Invarch'S, and it kind of just defines who I am. That's who I was for politics or with politics for many years, actually, since I was like 13 until I was 21. I thought I wanted to be the president.
I love that.
And I chased that for a long time. And I mean, actually, I got rather far. I used to work in politics. I helped some people get reelected. I also helped with public policy. I helped primarily with actually like with solving problems on the fly very rapidly to assist people. So I really liked my job. However, it's just not the place where I was able to make the impact or the rate of change at the speed I wanted to. I don't know if it's because I'm impatient or I feel like the rate at which we're getting faced with problems is kind of outpacing our ability to solve them. So there's just like this sense of urgency that I carry with me. After like a little, I guess, soul searching, decided that I wanted to leave politics. And after a little while, two years after that, finally decided to go 100% with Invarch'S, which is something that it's an idea that I've had now for 5, soon will going to be 6 years now that the age of the idea itself. And it started out something rather simple, something small. But it's grown so much, and it's something that the moment I had the idea to build Invarch'S, I understood the impact it could have. And it was right before COVID, right before the bull, that I actually started to getting into blockchain. And I got into blockchain before like crypto per se. Like I really did. Like I fell in love with Polkadot before I even had any cryptocurrency, and Dot was the first token that I ever bought. Got way back when. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And what got me into it though was Invarch'S started out as something I wanted to solve this problem between this gap where people have great ideas, and you can have a great idea. So many people have great ideas all over the world, potentially life-changing, world-changing ideas. But to have a great idea and to actually have the skills and or resources to bring that together, that is, I feel like that's the ultimate issue. It's the big problem. And there's so much trust embedded in my ideas to solve that. And the issue is that trust, I saw as a big negative. And there were so many like issues when it came to like assets ownership, like IP attribution, your ownership attribution to that. And there were so many issues that in the world of Web 2, I really, maybe you could go about solving it, but I understood it would have been heavily reliant and a lot of trust baked onto a company or private servers. And honestly, I just felt like it was something like bigger than I felt like it was no company, a single company had a right to own what I believe this could grow into. And through all of that searching and trying to find out like solutions is actually when I came across Polkadot, and then from there NFTs, and everything just fell into place. And the creativity in my brain was always firing off and going nuts, but it's like finally there was synchronization, and I don't know. I've been a Web3 junkie ever since.
I love that. You know what? That's really interesting that you were in politics before as well. Like what a big jump, but also makes sense. And I love what you said about kind of wanting to do something significant. Like that, that's something I think a lot of people think about but don't act on, which kind of goes into what you were saying about you can have this great idea, and many people have these great like life-changing or world-changing ideas, but then acting on it or having the ability to do so is a whole different thing. And well, it's fabulous you're here and that you landed in Polkadot. And IPs, I mean, big things, cross-chain IP development and authentication hub of Polkadot. So that's pretty big. Can you tell us a bit about what Invarch'S is and what you are building? I know IPs alone are a huge market, and you are it in the Polkadot space.
So yeah, this is thank you for this question. I'm actually really excited to dive in. It's funny because initially what got me into blockchain, into Web3, was solving the problems that I realized around IP, or around intellectual property and intellectual property rights. And it was the fact that there wasn't a trustless way to facilitate agreements where I can give someone, whether it's access rights or use rights, or I make an agreement where they'll earn whatever X amount of ownership or IP rights over this for their contributions. There was nothing to actually trustlessly facilitate those agreements, those transactions, and also to make sure that like the person that you are making agreements with, like how do you know that like they're not gonna steal what the agreement is for what you're sharing with them? You're not gonna get Zuckerberg, so to speak.
I love that.
Which was actually that movie, like the Social Network movie, inspired actually a lot of that whole bit of I realized I need to solve that issue. And that's what brought me to intellectual property and solving this. But from that, we decided that ultimately there needs to be a primitive that consists of many other primitives, that is able to ultimately define the abstract asset that is intellectual property. And so like that could be, it's very abstract. It could be anything from your idea and the ability to organize different files and assets, whether it's documents, PowerPoints, videos, or whatever, in a manner in which you would typically present your idea. But then also we needed to make it to where like just that one asset itself, if that wanted to be like, let's say if you're making a song, you know what I mean? Like people should be able to contribute individual beats to make a whole song, or imagine like a file and folder like structure, then this needs to be able to, hypothetically, it ought to have the ability to exist in another system if someone wanted to, let's say, make a derivative work, or if they wanted to like copy it, or they wanted to add it to an album. So we need to have like this really seamless, very fluid ontology, so that the system or construct for defining data. So with that, we made the INV4 protocol, which is really just a take on NFTs. And we've designed it in a way so it can act as a wrapper for any other NFTs. We realize that there's never going to be like a one-size-fits-all standard. There's going to be a plethora of different standards, whether it's you have ERC, like EVM native standards that you have with ERC contracts or Ethereum contracts, or you have like substrate native NFTs, whether it's for Mark, or you have what's called like the uniques palette. The point is there's going to be all these different NFTs. So we made sure that this acts as a wrapper that can wrap around any of these other assets to enhance them. That was key there. But also we made sure that these assets like pegged to them can facilitate rights and ownership rights. And we wanted to break away from like this one size fits all token utility model, where whether it's my NFT, and this NFT could be an image, or this could be what we call them like INV assets, or like IP sets. Just imagine like a folder and files. So someone could have like, whether it's an individual, like my bad, whether it's an image or it's a long, or it's an entire application, which consists of many different files of code. Someone should be able to facilitate different use rights or different access rights to that asset. But if you only have one token, it's kind of hard to do that, because it's this one token does everything, whether it's governance or the utility to use this. And we wanted to make it to where individuals can separate different use rights. So I'm able to give Alice full use rights. I'm able to give Bob the ability to, let's say, fork this or copy what I've made, but not able to make any sales. Or I want to provide it, I want to make it to where people can do limited things. So there's a set of functions which you can call over this asset, and we map the assets to these functions. So this token is basically the key to these three functions, or this other token is the key to these two functions. You can kind of get all nutty with it. But basically that's what like we start to solve. And with that, we have the IMV4 protocol. That's where things came out with IP, but we realized that the IMV4 protocol it's crazy what it can do, is what we realized. And I don't want to overstate things, but I really do feel like, or I imagine that when Gavin and Vitalik, when they set out to make EVM and smart contracts, there was at one point a specific reason that this all came about. And then with the invention of the smart contract, you realized, oh, shoot, you can build so much with this. And I really feel like that's something that we have here, because the primitive that we provide, the IMV4 assets, this ability to have this core, it's like this root or this main folder that can consist of any other variety of files and folders or NFTs and collections of NFTs and however you want to do things, but then also have these multi-class fungible tokens pegged to them, which can represent whatever utility someone wants them to be. It could be access rights, it could be specific voting rights in a specific group, it could be utility rights, it could be experience points for reputation for contribution like to that asset, which then makes it to where that asset by default can function as a DAO. So it gets really wonky. I feel like I might be trailing off a little bit here with my answer, but what ultimately like led me here, like with Polkadot and everything, and what Invarch'S is it started out as a solution for trustlessly facilitating IP rights agreements. However, since embarking on that initial journey, it's flourished into what I truly do believe will be the lowest level, really ultimate foundation for the creator economy. Because with these assets, with IMV4 assets, we're able to define all matters of content, no matter how specific or abstract it is. We're able to define all different separable functions, like utility functionality over those assets, whether it's governance, experience, or like reputation building, or just actual like financial utility or things I haven't even thought of. And then from here, you can create systems where you have, like, say, derivative works, where if I've built something and someone else, whether they fork it or they like encode it via fork, or they just make a derivative work, we're able to make this kind of like this hidden system that no one's really aware of, but it's tethering all of the different creative, like all the different like works. And then what we're able to facilitate trustlessly is this new type of economic system where, mind you, like, so I've made something and I get, whatever money I make on it, but someone can make a derivative work. And let's say I get 10% of their royalties, and they do something else and they get 10%, which means I really get 1% of that, and so on and so forth. And you really are able to add a network effect, a network business model to content itself. And it just gets crazy. It gets really cool. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think what you really hit the nail on the head there, saying was, you start with this whole idea and this whole plan, and it's quite common, especially, in Web3, and when you're sitting there building day in and day out, you start realizing potential of what you're doing, right? And it ends up being like this huge thing. So it's been really cool, actually, while researching your project, to see kind of, where you guys started when you were first talking about it, and now it's kind of snowballed into like this huge thing, right? And that's really cool. So So you did kind of explain a little bit about what IPs were, which was fantastic. That was my next question, but you are so amazing. You covered that for me. So what can happen if you, don't protect, or you don't have proof of ownership? Like, what issues are we seeing currently with that, and how can that get better?
I think so. There's two planes where there are issues. There's the world of Web 2. Let's just view that as like the regular world as we're typically used to it. And then there's also the new world, the new economic system that we're kind of creating here with Web 3. And the problems immediately in, I guess, like the normal world, the real world, is there is mass plagiarism across the internet. It's commonplace. It's very hard for people to track down and to proficiently stop. So you have people who then, off content that's not theirs, they create, they monetize it and they create earnings. And the person who actually did create that, they didn't make anything, or at least they didn't make that. There's a lot of cases out there, especially with artists, where they will release their work, and this blends the two worlds of Web 2 and Web 3. Their work that existed in the world of Web 2, people then took and they used them. They made NFTs and they sold them. They made a lot of money during the. They made a way more, like it was like, I think over $1 million. Like this one group specifically had made off this one artist who had never made any money off of her work, which is a shame. You know what I mean? It's very, very unfortunate. So the immediately, like, plagiarism is very easy. It's a very big problem, especially when it comes to innovation, open source innovation, which is something I'm a really big fan of. And then also it's important to have, I would say, like, there's a blend of things. There's two systems. I'm a big fan of DID. So there is, I would say, the optimal system where people have, let's say with Kilt, for example. I love Kilt. So yeah, I love Kilt. Like, actually apply them so much with my match, like the systems that I envision. So with Kilt, they have their chain, they have social KYC. So someone could have a test of credentials verifying their identity, which then they're able to, using their asset DID technology, they're able to attribute to our IP assets, linking their identity formally. And then take it a step further, they're able to conduct in internationally or domain specific compliant IP licensing agreements where they can facilitate certain agreements. There's certain contracts which you can codify. And this might seem like a little thing, but it's actually a really big deal. With Kilt's DID sign and the ability to then apply their actual digital signatures to these agreements, that little bit there, like applying that signature, is a massive, and that little bit there is actually what makes many agreements like actually compliant in many systems. But this is why, like, it's really important, because then you can facilitate the agreements trustlessly in Web3, properly in Web3, but using Web3, that we can take things a step further that aren't possible in Web2. And there's two specific things. One, Web2 and just the real world in general, the whole world in general, the facilitation of IP rights, whether it's copyrights, use rights, licensing, whatever, there is always a third party involved. And as someone who used to want to be a lawyer, like once upon a time, and a lot of these people aren't even lawyers, but it's just not needed here. It really isn't. I just don't. It's just not needed. Because all they're doing is they're just facilitating agreements when really these are just contracts. And I do believe that a majority of every concept of an existing, like, business contract today can be codified. And that's something that can then be trustlessly facilitated using blockchain. And that's just something that, for one, then can make business happen so much faster, can actually make more people hopefully open to doing business, because they don't actually have to trust. Some people are just hesitant, you know what I mean? When they have their intellectual property, whatever it is, that's their baby, and they can be a little hesitant. So removing trust from that equation is definitely beneficial. And then taking it a step further, this is one piece that is more so our novel technology will be coming later, but it's our XCA protocol, and the ability to actually using, and I'm going to use asset DIDs for this, preferably, but we're able to compute a unique fingerprint. It's computed using a variety of different hashing algorithms. These different hashing algorithms are used for different, in simple terms, like matching algorithms, methods. So basically this hashing algorithm is good for finding like one-to-one exact matches, whereas this one is good for finding like, okay, I took your art, I took your song, and I made a little bit of a change. Like what now? This one will detect that too. Or at least it'll find like a similarity score, and it will find that range. And if there's within a certain range, then obviously logic can be executed. So we're able to apply this system to where we can slowly but surely, and then one day ultimately solve the problem of at least digital or online plagiarism. Piracy is different. That's just them stealing it. That's hard to stop. But the ability for them to steal and then use across other connected systems to monetize it, that's actually something that we can one day make impossible. So yeah, the problem is that there's just a lot of vulnerabilities. That's the issue. That's the
Totally.
short answer.
Speaking a little bit, you are a layer one, and we are going to speak a little on dApps and protocols. And you did kind of touch base on each of the protocols, right, that you have, that being, INV4, OCIF, and XCA. Could you maybe break each three of those down separately, in just a really layman's way for the general public?
So in simple terms, the INV4 protocol is, I mean, in technical terms, it's an ontology protocol,
Okay.
really. But in simple terms, it's our primitive protocol. It's the protocol that allows people to define what it is that they're building, what it is their assets or an organization. So it's the building blocks. OCIF, so on-chain innovation funding, is our protocol on Tinkernet and exclusive to Tinkernet, which helps to basically seed innovation. So like I mentioned earlier, a lot of people have great ideas, but getting it started, and even like getting community feedback and support can kind of be a struggle. So providing an easy to access platform where people can have access to community driven funding. And then the XCA protocol is really what kind of helps bring things full circle regarding this environment for creators, this trustless creation environment. And it is, in one sense, it's kind of like our asset protection protocol. It is what will be responsible for registering assets and cross-referencing them to check for plagiarism. This way, we can create a system where people can hopefully openly share their intellectual property without fear of it being stolen.
Love that. And that's a very simple way to lay it out. I love that. Perfect. And so you mentioned Tinkernet. I absolutely love the name of this, by the way. How did you come up with Tinkernet before I get into it?
That was all Gabe. I have to be honest. That was all Gabe. I love him for that. It was just Tinker at first, and we came to Tinkernet, but it just made sense. And when
Yeah,
he
it
came
just,
forward,
I
I
don't
was
know
just
why
like,
it makes sense, but it does.
yeah,
In my head, it's like, I don't know. It's fun, it's playful, it's cute. I like it.
love it.
Tell me
Thank
a
you.
bit, yeah, of course. Tell me a bit more about Tinkernet and its function in Invarch.
So I might leak a lot of alpha right now,
That would be
because
bad.
like some really big alpha.
Okay,
They're
we'll
like
try it.
no, it's all good. It's all good. You can have the alpha. But just keep in mind a lot of these things are raw ideas because there's some changes that we've been brainstorming. Um,
Disclaimer, things are subject to change.
yes, yeah. So initially, so Tinkernet it's the square one for innovation. It's it's kind of like our experimental proving ground. It's community driven funding. It's a very relaxed environment where people can see if what they want to do, if it has traction, and then hopefully if it does have traction, thinking they can get a little bit of financial support to then take it a step further and get to building. However, and it still will be that overall core functionality will be there. However, the place for Tinkernet in the overall vision of the Invarch'S network is what I've been having fun with lately. And so one of the things that we've been exploring is to actually implement a dual token economy. In Invarch, the dual token economy would only exist in Invarch. However, it would consist of Varch, the native token of that chain, and Tinker, which would be the native token of obviously Tinkernet, which is currently on Kusama. And it's an interesting system, and it's really raw right now. But The idea here is that we have Varch, which is ultimately for governance, which I want to say will be a lot more elaborate than most chains, because our governance system, it's not just simply to facilitate, like chain upgrades and things like that. We're focusing on intellectual property, so there will be different bodies that make up our governance system, and some of these bodies will be specialized. And there's a lot of power, I do believe, that will come about this. So at face value, that is governance is really the core player here, for the Varch token over this system, over the creator economy. However, there's one other caveat it will bring, but with the Tinker token, really want to see this as kind of like the financial, really the financial utility and like kind of like enhancement token for applications, for whether it's a application, a lot of products that we build, but also for other applications and services that are built on top of the network. The reason being is it would do two things. It would allow people to very seamlessly transfer fully transfer their whether it's their DAO or their like their NFT as DAO or an app that they built on the network, be able to transfer that under the same like token and system that they've been using. However, we also want to make it to where, and this is again all really raw idea, exploring where this would it would change the Varch supply. So right now it's pegged to like $1 billion with inflation. It's going to change it up drastically actually, and it would have, this is just a rough number, but 117 million period, that would be released over hundreds, many years, decades, many years, 50% of the supply released over that period. And the Varch token would bring, in a sense, a dividend over every interval, but that dividend would be provided in Tinker token. And an important reason for this is just the idea here, is I don't want to create a system. I want to create a system that actually is empowering, like a token where its utility does bring value to its holders. It literally brings value to its holders apart from just it, because then I think it's just a zero-sum game. But I don't want to create a system where the bigger your bags, like, I love capitalism, but there's definitely like income inequality issue going on. And I don't want to create a system that does the same thing, because then if someone has 100 Varch, and let's say if these numbers are what it all make up right now, but let's say they 100 Varch and then they get 10 Varch. And then next time around, if they just hold that, then they'll get 11 Varch. And technically they'll get a little bit more every time from doing nothing. And I don't want to have a system like that, because then it allows the division of wealth in the network to drive and have this big gap. But if we do it this way, to where there's this governance and kind of dividend providing token for a system and economy that operates using Tinker, then I think it would be really very interesting at the least. But I think it could separate the two. And yeah, that's what's been going on. And I'll probably release actually an article on it at some point in the future here soon after this comes about. But yeah, that's Tinkernet right now. What's going on?
You heard it here first, you guys. Dakota's spilling the tea on the Riri show. I love it. Fantastic. So you talked a little bit, a lot of bit about token involvement and everything here. So it looks like big things coming up for Invarch'S. I'm excited. This is amazing. So I was going to ask you about current news. I think we can't get any better than that alpha, but let's still pop into some of the stuff that you have going on currently. So you are rolling out GitArch. I know this is really exciting for a lot of people. So it's public beta. And can you give us some insight here? Because it's basically like a decentralized type of GitHub.
Yeah, so I love GitArch. I love everything about it. Just because it's a really powerful way to kind of show off one of the use cases in which IMV4 assets can be applied. And that's with ownership over code. The issue with GitHub, and this applies for individuals, whether they're open source privacy writing individuals, or even just like a lot of businesses in the world, they don't use services such as GitHub or GitLabs or things like Bitbucket because they don't actually own the code. The code's stored on the server pegged to their account, which that's centralized company has control over. And it's not a theory or a possibility. It's been done now numerous times, as we see in a moment, and without any due process, you're just gone. You'd be censored. Your account could be deleted. And then access to that code is, if you didn't have a backup, like, it's gone. That is it. It's either in here or you had a backup. And if it's in here, God bless, you got a lot of coding to do, you know?
No kidding. No kidding.
So the big problem there, and the thing is with GitArch, it's just, there's a third-party service there. GitHub's not, I'm gonna say they're not evil. It's a very amazing service they provide, but it's a third-party service with a lot of trust involved that's been abused, and it just doesn't need to be that way. So GitArch is, well, two things that we're really providing here. First and foremost, there is the platform itself, which can just be seen as it's a actually decentralized, actually censorship resistant alternative to GitHub or GitLab. It's very seamless too. Because, like, for example, there's Radical out there. And of course, I love the intent of what they set out to do, but in execution, it's not a seamless alternative. They have invented a whole new workflow that people would have to learn. And then even on their own website, as they say, it's not decentralized or censorship proof yet. They're things that they want to work on. Whereas done, we got it. And it's because, we built out of Polkadot, we built using Substrate, and like light clients are really awesome. Tinkernet was the first chain to actually provide, Tinkernet and the GM parachain were the first to implement light client solution. And that's really, really key, because one of, I guess, the final single points of failure in the systems that we see today in Web 2, or even like in Ethereum, which it's like Web 2.5, because there's a lot of reliance. The services rely on centralized entities like RPC providers, where yes, we have that, but we don't rely on it. And it's the combination of this that makes it to where this is a platform where people are able to host their code. It's not hosted by us, hosted on the chain. They're able to store their code as NFTs, and then they're able to manage, like I mentioned earlier, with like the DAO functionality. You can get wonky. You can give specified use rights for people. You could also have a treasury. The other thing is these assets can also have treasuries. They're able to operate actually as if they were just like a user with their own account, and all of their own assets. That's really what they're able to do. So they can have treasuries, like maintenance treasuries that they have pegged in this whole system, for like maintaining the code base. It's open source and all this amazing stuff, more stuff that we'll be rolling out here. There's that, and something that we're going to also be working on is something easier, like even more simpler. And it's just kind of like an integration with platforms. It's really with Git, but it works. It'll work with GitHub. It'll work with any platform, and it'll make it to where whenever someone pushes their code to GitHub, it will also push to Invarch'S or to GitArch as a backup. So that way it's very seamless. And that way, let's say if they're like, I don't really like Web3, it's not my jam, like, cool, it's fine. You don't have to concern yourself with it, but go about your day, do what you've been doing, but you'll have this backup just in case. And I think, like, with security, it's one of those things where you don't realize you need it until you need it.
Yeah.
And this is one of those things where it's just a very, very simple way to just, I don't know, cover your back, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, that's what Web3 is about. We're pushing towards, we're pushing towards decentralization. That's what blockchain's about. So only natural that you guys have created this amazing decentralized GitHub type of environment. And absolutely, security is such a big thing. And especially, it's not easy building. It's not easy coding. It's not easy doing any of this stuff. So having a backup, I think, is never a bad idea. And I think we've all been subject to losing large amounts of work at some given time in our life, and it feels terrible. So
well, yeah, it's like, yeah, whether it's an article that you're written and poof, it's gone. Code is sickening. When only once in my life did I mess something, like, it was a long time ago, but I remember I wrote a program, and I still beat myself over it now. So many lines of code, and this wouldn't necessarily solve the problem, but it's just like, yeah, I messed up. It was gone, it wasn't saved, and I was sick, but I felt sick. But the important thing here is, at least we provide the platform, and it'll build out to provide all the features that GitHub does provide, and then even more. But then as a baseline, again, let's say you love GitHub, fine. keep using GitHub and all of their services. Nothing's wrong with it, but you can just make sure you actually do own your code.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely love it. So along with this, you guys have so much to talk about. I just like could go on forever. Okay, so the next thing also is you guys have Saturn-sig. So this will be submitted to Kusama Treasury as a proposal. Can you elaborate a little bit on this?
Yeah, so you might be hearing it here first. If not, then the proposal's up and go support it. But the idea here is, so what we want to do, we built it a little bit ago. There's some more, we want to make a separate module and perfect some things, add in a little bit more functionality. But what we realized we created, and this is just one of those other use cases for IMV4, is it could be like, yeah, your NFTs or a DAO, or it could be a multi-sig wallet solution as well. And like it's just cool. So what it's able to do is the IMV4 asks the IMV tongue-tied, my bad.
That's
Called
okay.
the IMV4 core, just like the roots primitive of it all. So that is basically the account, and it's able to emulate an account like any other user. Like if you were to go and create like an account, Polkadot.js, and then anything that you can then go and do across it, it's able to do all of that. It's able to emulate that. However, control over it is decentralized through those fungible tokens that are pegged to it. So we then realized that like this actually turns out to be like a really powerful like multi-sig solution, like Gnosis Safe on steroids and actually decentralized, not rely on their centralized services. So like this is important because God forbid if they ever went down,
Yeah.
that'd be horrible. But or if there's just an issue. But the thing here with Saturn-sig is we realize we have a very seamless multi-sig solution. It's able to facilitate like the change of different members, like people who have rights, they're able to agree, like participate in the multi-sig. It's very, very modular. It's able to, we've actually designed it in a way, this is something that I think will be really cool about our chain in general, is design it in a way to where the multi-sig can actually manage your assets on other chains without the assets ever needing to even be bridged or XCM transfer or anything, which will be crazy. But basically it's in a nutshell, Gnosis safe on steroids, like I said, decentralized steroids, very modular, and something that we want to provide so that any chain, for one, so that Kusama and Polkadot can hopefully one day have this. And we've spoken with Parity about it before, but maybe one day, if all goes well, become kind of like the de facto multi-sig solution for the ecosystem, but at the very least become a modular multi-sig solution for all other parachains in which they can implement and then provide for their ecosystems. It's very seamless. It's a way, it just natively comes with the ability to have like social recovery functionality. Like I said, you can have like you have the initial members or participants who have initial control, but you can offboard and onboard new members. And then the assets in which the multi-sig is able to control you can go nuts. It could be an NFT, it could be a collection of NFT, it could be assets, whatever. But yeah, so we want to provide this for the whole ecosystem. So Treasury proposal it is.
I love it. Sounds good. So make sure you guys are prompt on checking out that proposal. And also, I love that you use the term decentralized steroids. I feel like we're in some shady business. Maybe like decentralized steroids will be a thing in the future. You never know.
You're right. Decentralized gains.
Yeah, exactly. Decentralized gains. Decentralized gains. I love it. So what partnerships have you developed so far then?
So we actually have it's funny, we have like a ton of partnerships that I guess like we haven't like announced or like really been too focused on like
Totally.
the marketing aspect. A lot of teams we work strong with. Like
You're building, I get it. I totally
but
understand.
there's several projects to this. There's several teams that are like involved in the beta. And there are several projects like Fala Network, working actually a lot. Like we use fat contracts, like products for a lot of our products. We use fat contracts for so many different solutions. And it's because fat contracts are I love them. They're really powerful. They're you can just do you can do a lot of stuff like with fat contracts. We realize like account abstraction. So for example, GitArch is actually going to have the ability to where you don't even need a wallet, or at least you won't know. Like you won't have your keys, but a centralized entity won't have your keys either. It will actually be the IMV4 like assets that has your key. But anyway, this uses fat contracts as well, and it's really cool. It's really powerful. Like everything going on there. Um, I've mentioned kilts, nothing formal on that end yet, but I will say that like spoken with Christine and Ingo a lot. You know, I'm a huge fan of them. Collaborated on some things. I really just want to I want to make sure like we're ready before I
Sure.
properly like address them and like, hey, like let's take this to the next level. And then Astar as well. Like, well, I've spoken with Derek recently about the same thing, but um, something that's really cool about our assets, something that Gabe's been working on, and I think it'll be really powerful about Invarch's in general, is the ability for trustless like XEM transacts. So we using XEM, you're able to transfer like token from this chain, from this parachain to this parachain. But I'm a huge like multi-protocol, like powered DApp visionary, I guess, so to speak. Like, so but the problem is with that, and it's not possible in any other ecosystem, but it's currently not a thing in ours either, is multi-protocol development where you have protocols on different chains being used to build one single application. And what I mean is a smart contract, like not with no centralized entity, not like a centralized entity plugging in like this. What I mean is a smart contract that was released on Astar, it could be Gear, Moonbeam, but a smart contract that is deployed on one chain that interacts with the IMV4 palette on our chain as if it were just a native smart contract on that chain. And it's just really wonky what's gonna happen there. So it's really cool, really crazy. True like modular Lego like development possibilities for Polkadot and something that will only be possible in Polkadot. So excited about that. But of course, there's like a past partners, Remark, Crust. Love the guys over at Subsquid as well. And I will say, we'll be talking. We're toe and toe with the guys over at Talisman. Like we love them. Berto and all of them are really great. But we'll be formally talking with them about there's our multi-sig. But we would really like it if Talisman was just the UI for that though, because I love Talisman. Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually spoken to Berto before. So yeah, they're a fun crew over there.
Yeah.
For sure. Amazing. I love that. So another thing I want to touch base on is you guys are really, really great at posting Medium articles. You've got a ton of them. They are so clearly written. They are fun. They're educational. Lots of analogies and fun ways to understand material. Is education something you strongly value? And will you continue as adoption progresses?
Yeah, yes, I love education. I educate, knowledge is power. So I understand just the significance of it. Well, for one, I understand that what we're building is not easy to like. I hate when someone's like, tell me in a sentence what you're doing. And I'm like, I hate that
Like I'll
question.
tell you in a 3-hour interview.
Yeah. I'm like, I can like, I mean, that's actually that question stumps me more than any other question on like it's funny. But education is important because I understand like what we're building is new and people need to understand what we're building. Like Web3 in general, like yes, blockchain, all that, that's a whole tier of new knowledge. But beyond that, and like just simply what we're doing and this vision that we have for the creator economy, how it's able to work, like there's there's a lot to talk about. Whether it comes from like the actual primitives we provide or what's possible, like there's a lot of ideas that I have. Like there's SEPA protocols or SEPAnomics, which is scalable incentivized proof of attendance, which would be really cool. I think it has the possibility to create like discrimination resistant like business environments for everyone. I want to talk about that. There's what we're able to do with like asset protection. I want to talk about that. But education is just something that I think is the most important. Like, I think it's the root of any grassroots campaign, is making sure like people are well informed. And then knowledge to me is, I mean, I don't know. I grew up with nothing, or really, really poor in a very abusive household. And the one thing I did have was the ability to learn. And I believe, and I understand that through, by learning, it inspires, and it kind of, whether it gives hope or just it inspires people or lets their creativity run wild. You need to be able to deliver that to people. You have to feed their imaginations, for hopefully innovation to occur. So making sure like people know what we're building and what's all possible it's really important to me, because I want to hopefully like stoke as many people's imaginations as possible.
Absolutely. And you know what? Props to you, because you look where you are now, right? And I think what's really interesting and what I enjoy talking to people about is, everyone's got these backstories and these crazy places. And, a lot of people have come from different situations that, maybe were hard done by, or rough upbringings. And it's really interesting to see these people like, strive and push forward. So huge props to you. That's something I'm passionate about as well. And in terms of the community, I wanted to ask you what you thought of this actually. So what do you think we can do as a community? So the community is in, the general Polkadot community, to really push our ecosystem forward. Like, what would you say is a good thing for the general population or general community to do?
In a nutshell, I have a lot of thoughts on this, like not negative things. We have the ultimate foundation, but there's a lot of little things I would
Right.
like to note, like on the marketing side too. Like, it's not necessarily Parity's problem, but ultimately, like, to the community, the big thing, like what we can do is we really we need to keep the positivity. And what I mean is we need to be the positivity. We need to like keep that with us. So whether it's we're talking about Polkadot or we're engaging others, like we should be that positive force, because we need to understand, well, for one, rough times right now for like people just,
In
why go
general.
keep our language, like why go be a dick, you know what I mean?
Mm.
When talking to people online. But like we should all be really proud of what we're doing. So like on social media, like talking about all those things. But when I say like remain positive, like there will be times where I'll see like people from other chains talk about things, and people will get very negative very fast.
Mm.
Um, or sometimes we can, I guess what I want to say is this, like everything else aside, like what I really want to say is like, we just need to be more welcoming, like really welcoming to anything. Like we need to understand like Polkadot, like there's all these different ecosystems and all these different people. And this ecosystem, if you want to like draw different circles and make them different sizes to reflect the value, whatever. But in the center of that, there's Polkadot connecting it all. And I think it's important to understand like that's our place. And just be welcoming of people's interests. Like I saw like recently, there was I might get flack for that. I don't keep up with the stuff, so I don't know the opinions and of stuff now. But like, there's BitBoy Crypto, and he's talked about
Yeah.
like he wanted to like bring on Gavin Wood. I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome. Why not? And some
Yeah.
people were like, he'd never want. And I'm not. I don't even know what the backstory is, but like, I'm just saying, like, who cares? Who cares about the negativity? Like we shouldn't either say nothing, because who cares, or just embrace it, be positive, because things like that, like anything that we can do to expand our exposure is, I think, really important. We talk about this echo chamber that we're in, and there's some validity to that, of course. Like we definitely, that goes for anything, there's these groups and we all kind of talk really in these big circles amongst ourselves, but when there's opportunities to break out because we have this amazing tech, we should welcome those opportunities, not pander to them, you know what I mean? But I mean, at least be open-minded. I don't know if I should be proud of this or not, because from what I understand, there's mixed feelings around the guy, but it's just fun fact. The first then like crypto video I dove into ever, like it was actually a BitBoy like crypto video. And the point I'm getting at is I Googled he popped up first. I watched, which means if that, and then here I am now, whatever. So like, opinions on the guy regardless, like here I am now. Um, it it's just it's a really great way to expose people to what we're building.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, that's like the big thing. I just want to see like just the positivity. Like people talk about like screw the numbers and screw them. Like all that is short term right now. Like, and it's a bear market. Now's not the time to be talking about who's down. And you know what I mean? Like it's
Right.
everyone is. But the tech we have is out of this world. It's insane. It's the best tech. Like it's not an argument. There's not a debate. It's the best tech. And whether if someone had some principle first or this or that, who cares? What we have now, it's the best tech that there is. And now everyone else is playing catch up. And we just need to embrace that and really just carry that with ourselves as whether we're in life or social media or whatever. And yeah, just be proud of Polkadot.
Yeah, and I think just really like, as you said, it's a bigger picture and it's kind of like so far beyond that. Something I'm passionate about. Anyone who kind of knows me at all knows that I'm passionate about adoption and just really being welcoming. And I'm a big community person. So I props to what you said there. I'm a positive queen myself. So absolutely love that. Is there anything else you'd like to mention? I know I covered and asked you kind of questions in all different aspects, but if there's anything else you'd like to mention, please do.
You did I'll say you did a phenomenal job covering all these questions, like all these different topics. You hit so many different things that I'd like to talk about. So yeah, really incredible there. We touched on a lot. I guess the big thing I could say is this news will be coming out soon. So this could either be the first, in which case I'll be publishing something the day after this airs, or we'll already announce it just prior. But we do have every intention of securing a slot on Polkadot before the end of the year, which means we'll probably be giving people a heads up at Sub-Zero, at the Sub-Zero conference. And that way people can, if needed, they have time to unstake their dot. They have like on bonding periods. And yeah, we'll go from there.
Oh, that's so exciting. Yay. Well, I'm going to
excited.
celebrate for you. But thank you for sharing your knowledge. You are a wealth of knowledge. I can see a million wheels turning in that brain. So keep building.
Yeah.
You guys are fantastic. And I appreciate you so much coming on the show.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Like I said, the questions were amazing. This was actually like, I enjoy all interviews, but I really, really enjoyed this. Like I got to talk about a lot of great things. So thank you very much. Like this was awesome. Thank you.
Oh, love it. Well, let's do it again sometime in the future and have a wonderful evening.